The Arab slave trade began centuries before Islam, rooted in ancient practices of capturing people during tribal conflicts. As Arab empires expanded from the 7th century, the demand for labor and servants soared, transforming local slavery into a vast intercontinental network. Trade routes that once carried spices and gold now trafficked people from Europe, Africa, and Asia. The word slave itself comes from the Slavic people, many of whom were captured in early raids. This trade was not based on race, but on vulnerability. Anyone near the empire's borders was at risk. Men were forced into military service or hard labor, women into domestic work or concubinage, and even children were not spared. Human lives became commodities, fueling a system that would endure for over 1,000 years. The foundations laid in this era set the stage for centuries of suffering and exploitation. The Arab slave trade was driven by economic need and social status. Massive projects like sugar plantations in Iraq and salt mines in the Sahara required labor that free people refused to do. Owning slaves became a symbol of wealth and power in cities like Baghdad and Cairo. The trade spanned continents. Caravans crossed the Sahara, ships sailed from East Africa's Swahili coast, and routes stretched from Europe and Central Asia. Arab merchants worked with African, European, and Asian partners, creating a global network of human trafficking. African kingdoms raided neighbors for captives, trading them for goods like textiles and weapons. European traders, especially from Venice, also played a role in the early centuries. This was not a local affair, it was a vast, interconnected enterprise. The result was a relentless flow of people torn from their homes and sold into bondage. The Arab slave trade evolved over time, shifting sources as circumstances changed. Early on, many enslaved people were Europeans, but as those regions grew stronger, the trade turned south to sub-Saharan Africa. West African empires like Mali and Songhai became major suppliers, exchanging captives for goods. The Indian Ocean trade expanded, with Zanzibar emerging as a massive slave market under Omani rule. Countless Africans were shipped to Arabia, Persia, and beyond, forced to work on plantations and in households. The demand for agricultural labor grew, leading to more brutal methods of capture and transport. The trade became more systematic and devastating, especially for African communities. Over centuries, the association between slavery and African descent deepened, leaving lasting consequences. The end of the Arab slave trade was gradual, driven by European abolitionist pressure in the 19th century. The British Royal Navy patrolled seas, intercepting slave ships and forcing treaties on local rulers. Resistance was strong. Slavery was deeply embedded in societies like the Ottoman Empire and Zanzibar. Yet, economic and military pressure forced change. In 1873, Zanzibar's slave market was closed under British demand. Illegal trade persisted, but abolition made it riskier and less profitable. European colonial rule eventually imposed formal bans across Africa and the Middle East. The Ottoman Empire abolished slavery in its final years. Saudi Arabia and Yemen did so only in 1962. The process was messy and slow, ending only within living memory. The legacy of this trade still echoes in the places it once dominated. The Arab slave trade's legacy is visible today in diaspora communities across the Middle East and North Africa. Descendants of enslaved Africans and Europeans live in countries like Iraq, Iran, and the Gulf, though their histories are often overlooked. Africa itself bears deep scars. Centuries of raids destabilized societies, fueled conflict, and robbed the continent of millions. This history is crucial for understanding global slavery, which was never limited to the Atlantic world. Recognizing the Arab slave trade broadens our perspective and challenges simplistic narratives. It reminds us how economic motives and prejudice can create enduring systems of exploitation. Though slavery is now illegal, modern forms of human trafficking persist. By remembering this past, we are better equipped to fight injustice today.